طلع ايه؟
تمرة في تمرة.
ايوه يا حبيبي، ايوه دمر الدنيا هون، دمر الدنيا، ايوه دمر الدنيا. فرسلية نزل فرسلية، ايوه فوق راسي يا عيال.
אבל לא יודע אם זה רוטין, טילים. אני גם לא יודע. תראה. בוא'נה, זה לא מפסיק, אה? תראה כמה עצים. ברחו גם עצים מלא. איך אנחנו לא פיצוצים? לא יודע. משהו מוזר. השם המחי.
We just saw a compilation of what's happening in the Iran-Israel conflict, or Israel-Iran. Iran unleashed hypersonic missiles today, many hits insane. A small cut of tonight's videos. This is 19 or 20 hours ago. Hello to you all. You're watching RHTVLive, where we talk politics and geopolitics. And yeah, let's start off with Israel, right? Israel and Iran, that's hot on the table. So yeah, we want peace. That is what we want, right? We don't fall for the tricks of Israel. And there's a political alignment going on in the world. And the Netherlands has not much to say, right? We're part of NATO, so yeah. We're streaming live from Maastricht, which is in the south of the Netherlands. And as I've said before, there's a political alignment going on, and it's not looking good. Not looking good, right? So let's take a look at We Are Change, and let's share this tab here. Luke Rudowski has shifted the political alignment, and this is how it looks like, right? You have the United States, Israel, you have NATO, a collection of European countries, you have India, and you have Ukraine. The opposing side is China, Russia, Pakistan, Iran, North Korea, and Belarus, right? So the sides are aligning, and not looking good, people. Not looking good. We want peace. That is what we want. Let's skip back a bit. So, Luke Rudowski, been following you for quite a while. You know, you're someone who advocates for peace, and I do so too. So, yeah. Let's see what you have to say about the conflict.
But splash some cold water on your face. This is the reality of the situation that we're living in. as the Israelis are urging the United States to strike Iranian nuclear sites. And a lot of people have already said it already has been greenlit. They are just waiting for Iran to run out of missiles so they cannot shoot down the B-2 bombers with their bunker busters. That is what is currently unfolding right now, as Joel Pollack has some very interesting perspectives here. And for me personally, I believe that this is the plan all along. This is the Israeli endgame, and I think this is step by step what's going to be happening here. What?
So Joel Pollack says there are 3 Israeli endgame strategies for winning the war with Iran. Attack until Iran agrees to U.S. deal to abandon its nuclear program. Attack until the U.S. decides it's safe to join the fight. Attack the regime itself until the opposition can take over. So who knows? Who knows? I don't live in Iran, right? So I don't know. Will the population want it, yes or no? You see, the last time the U.S. intervened in Iran, former Persia, was in the 1950s, right? Mossadegh. He was removed by the CIA, and they put in the Shah, which was a Western-aligned leader, right? And the Iranians said, no, we don't want this. So they had a revolution, and they put in the Ayatollah in power, right? Religious people. So, and this is how they want it, right? This is their right for, you know, having a culture, living like this, right? They want to live this way, you know, it's not for me to decide how to live, right? But I don't like the regime. Yeah. But that accounts for many regimes, right? I don't like North Korea either. So, yeah. We all share this planet, and we need to...
1. Attack until Iran agrees to a U.S. deal to abandon...
No, we don't need to do that.
...abandon its nuclear program. I think that's going to happen. 2. Attack until the U.S. decides it's safe to join the fight. Yep.
Nope. Don't do that. Don't go into foreign entanglements, right? You have nothing to profit from it, right? Don't do it, Donald Trump. I'm talking to you, right? Don't do it. I know you greenlit the attack on Iran. I know. The same goes for Russia. I know. But it needs to end, right? And there's an agreement internationally that any country can have nuclear energy, right? We have nuclear energy here. So, you know, why not Iran? Why trust Netanyahu whilst he kills off like thousands of people in Gaza, right? I think the count is on 50,000 or something. These are women and children, right? They're not Hamas. We know who created Hamas. It was Israel itself. They're using Hamas to intervene in the Gaza Strip or in the West Bank, right? We know how the game is played. And Donald Trump had said, you know, maybe the Gaza Strip will be under the U.S. occupation. We're going to rebuild it, you know, and we're going to let these Gulf states pay for it, basically. That's the plan of the Trump administration, right? And it entails that many Palestinians have to leave the Gaza Strip and be resettled and stuff like that. You know, these people don't want to do that. They want to stay there, even though it's in ruins, right? So anyway, number 2, don't do that, Donald. Don't do that. Nope, do not do that.
And then once the U.S. decides to join the fight, because then the Iranians can strike them, the Iranians are out of missiles, the U.S. will send their bombers. They won't lose any troops, and Donald Trump will be like, my troops weren't involved. No one got hurt. That's the possibility. That's probably what's going to happen here. And 3, attack the regime itself until the opposition can take over. You mean create another Iraq, vacuum of power, sectarian violence, collapse of the state.
We don't want that. Nope. We saw what happened in Iraq after Saddam was removed, right? The Ba'ath Party was dissolved, basically. And, everyone working in Iraq was member of the Ba'ath Party, right? So when it was dissolved, people were literally on the streets. So America did something wrong there, and they rebuild the Ba'ath Party, right, during the power vacuum. So yeah, it's not an affair you don't want to mend into, Mr. Trump, Donald, right? I'm talking to you, Donald Trump. It's not an affair you want to mend into. Don't do that, right? I thought it was America first. Well, you're sending troops to the Middle East. Is that America first? I don't think so. You're being led by war hawks, right? War hawks who profit from wars. So, we're going to get into that.
State and just utter pandemonium, panic, disaster, and death. And that's probably what's going to be happening here. As the United States military is already shooting down Iranian missiles, it's already providing defense for the Israelis as the Iranians see that as their involvement, clearly. I mean, you can't just give someone a weapon, send them over, and then when they mess up that person comes to you, you're like, no, you're not going to hit them. I mean, come on. Let's just be real with ourselves. And the Iranians understand this. The Iranians now aren't able to fight back because of the United States. And now the United States is active on land, sea, and air and intercepting Iranian ballistic missiles heading towards Israel. Now, they haven't been that successful because the ballistic missiles are pretty gosh darn fast. Now, again, constant back and forth fighting. We're also finding out now that Britain is involved here, as Britain is moving.
So what we see here is a war vacuum, right? It's the same as in Ukraine. There's a war vacuum there, which involves many countries. The Netherlands is providing Ukraine with monetary support and equipment and stuff. So, and many other countries are involved in Ukraine. Colombia, even Southern American countries, as I've said, Colombia and other countries within the South American hemisphere. So, it's a war vacuum. Many countries are going to get involved. North Korea was involved in Russia, in supplying Russia with warheads and stuff like that. And as we've seen before, right, the alignment is there. Anyway.
Moving their warplanes into the Middle East, probably will be providing more defensive measures for the Israelis. And now the Germans, as we have seen a German refueling aircraft, quote, accidentally turn on their transponder while flying over Jordan. As people are writing, seems like someone wasn't happy with their job and wanted the world to know that they were being tasked with refueling fighter jets over Jordan for the Israelis that are using it in order to bomb and attack Iran. Now, Putin isn't happy with this. Xi from China isn't happy with this. Putin slammed the Israeli strikes on Iran here, and clearly he sees it as part of a joint U.S. operation. Now, the clouds of war here are, the storm clouds are gathering. When we look at what's going on here, the geopolitical chessboard is shaping up for a big doozy of a big fight here. On one side, the United States, Israel, India, NATO, and Ukraine. That's one side. On the other side here, you have the countries that oppose those countries and are already in a full-on kinetic war with them. China, Russia, Pakistan, Iran, North Korea, and Belarus.
So we remember that there was a conflict between Pakistan and India, right? It didn't last that long. It was about the Kashmir region. Now, let's put that on the map. And let's define it, right? So over here we have Ukraine, war vacuum. We see the vacuum expanding basically, not kinetically, right? There is no war. But we see in Romania that there were elections and there was a presidential candidate who was against NATO expansion in Romania, you know, and basically he won in the first round, and then he lost in the second round, and it's very weird. Anyway, it's about control of the Black Sea, right? They know that Odessa isn't really a safe place to be, right? Many Russian rockets in Odessa. So they need their NATO base nearby, right, in Romania. So that's happening. Furthermore, we have Iran and Israel, as we started off before. And basically, Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, has been, shouting for a couple of decades now that Iran is capable of making a nuclear weapon, right, and aiming it at Tel Aviv. And, the Iranians, they say we need this for energy, right? We're not going to make a bomb. We got bombs enough, We need it for energy. And Israel says, nope, you're going to make a weapon. Yeah, you're going to make a bomb. So, and this is a distrust between Israel and Iran, right? So we're going to show Bibi Netanyahu during a United Nations speech where he actually had a drawing of a bomb, right? And we're going to take a look at this here. Not that long. This is shorter. So, no, we're not going to do that. Here.
So how much enriched uranium do you need for a bomb? And how close is Iran to getting it? Well, let me show you. Brought a diagram for it.
Mind this is in 2012, right? Now it's 2025. This guy's been in power for so long. Even though he was not in politics for basically a year, in and out of politics. And now he's prime minister again, or president. And, it's weird how it works, right? But this is in 2012. So we're going to show the bomb diagram. the Acme bomb diagram.
for you. Here's a diagram. This is a bomb. This is a fuse.
No, really? Really? That's, I did not know that, Benjamin Netanyahu. I did not know that.
In the case of Iran's nuclear plans to build a bomb, this bomb has to be filled with enough enriched uranium. And Iran has to go through 3 stages. The first stage, they have to enrich enough low enriched uranium. The second stage, they have to enrich enough medium enriched uranium. And the third stage and final stage, they have to enrich enough high enriched uranium for the first bomb. Where's Iran?
So basically, Benjamin Netanyahu is saying they want to build a nuke, right? Even though we just saw hypersonic missiles and stuff like that, right? So it's madness. It really is madness. This is the reason why Israel attacked Iran, according to official accounts, right? You know, they say it's time to attack Iran. And basically Donald Trump said, yep, do it. Yeah, we're going to show these Ayatollah leaders how things are done, right? And publicly, Donald Trump says, nah, we're not involved. No, you know, our hands are clean until you get involved, right? The war vacuum. So that's going on. There's a lot going on. And we were about to talk about insider trading, what happens in Washington, right? So let's take a look at this here. How Nancy Pelosi and others within the DNC enrich themselves on war bonds and stuff like that. So we're going to take a look at this here for a couple of minutes.
Investigations, but it won't, and you're about to learn why. DNC Vice Chairman David Hogg was just caught on hidden camera making an admission so damning, so corrupt, that it exposes the entire rotten core of Washington. He openly admits Nancy Pelosi is engaged in insider trading, achieving returns that beat every hedge fund on Wall Street through what he acknowledges is corrupt stock trading. Yes, you heard me correctly. But here is the truly shocking part. This gun control zealot who wants to strip away your Second Amendment rights refuses to expose Pelosi's corruption because, in his own words, it's going to be harder for us to get gun control passed. Now, he's willing to cover up financial crimes to advance his anti-gun agenda. Now, watch what happens when David Hogg thinks that no one is recording.
I would say Pelosi's actually very good at her job. I don't agree with the stock trading stuff. I mean, she gets better returns than almost every hedge fund in this city. Every year. Some of these members of Congress make trades that are like way too well timed to not have like insider knowledge. They happen to be some of the best.
So basically, if we look back at 9/11, right, there was insider trading back then. You know, American Airlines and what was it? Anyway, a long time ago. So anyway, there was insider trading back then. And it's always been a public secret. And now you have David Hogg, the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, saying, you know, there's insider trading.
Best financial analysts in human history.
Have you spoken against that?
I've talked to them in the past, but it's also like, I know that if I pick that fight, it's going to be harder for us to get gun control passed. So I pick my battle. Like the hardest part about my job is I just want to burn everything down because it's also corrupt. But you got to pick your battles and slowly build your momentum.
And now returning to analyze this explosive confession is Ross Givens, former VP at JP Morgan Chase and the nation's leading expert on congressional trading patterns. That's right, he's back to break down what this means for every American investor. Ross, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Gary, good to see you.
It is always exciting to have you here. There's always some juicy stuff you've got to drop on us. And then we got this undercover video from Project Veritas. It's hot off the press. So, Ross, David Hogg, he just admitted on camera that Pelosi's stock returns beat almost every hedge fund. And as a Wall Street veteran, is that even statistically possible without insider information?
I'm not a Wall Street veteran, right? But I don't think it's possible. If you have no knowledge of, a stock going down, then, yeah. So I don't think it's possible. But anyway, this guy is an expert, and let's listen to this guy here.
Not even close. And when you look at the actual returns, these are not people that beat the market by 2 or 3 or 4%. These are people making 80, 100, 140% annualized returns, numbers that even Warren Buffett has never, ever done. So, no, it is not possible. And not to mention, even if it were, these aren't Wall Street pros. They're politicians. They're placing, a couple of trades from their cell phone. They're absolutely using insider information.
You see, even, I'm not an economic guy. I don't know much about economics, but I do know that people, are dirty when it comes to providing themselves money, right?
So let's talk some specifics now, because Quiver Quant shows that Congress achieved 405% returns while the market made 140%. Walk us through how these politicians are crushing professional investors, and what exactly is Quiver Quant?
Yeah, so I posted this on X. I don't know if you've got that to throw up there to show the image, but Quiver Quant is a company that tracks insider trading. So, we've been doing this since 2017 for our members. We showed them how to track these trades, how to find the stocks that these insiders are buying, and follow along. In fact, we have a training event coming up this coming, Wednesday or Thursday? At 3 o'clock Eastern. I think there's a link below to register for that. But what they've done, they built this portfolio called the Congress Buy Strategy. And all it does, when a politician, a member of Congress, buys a stock, it buys it as well. When they sell, it sells it. So it's just tracking their trades, if that was your portfolio. And the outperformance is staggering. Over the last 5 years, the thing's up 405% compared to 140 for the market. So almost triple the market's returns just piggybacking these trades. And this is all information that's free for us to access. And this is all of congressmen. If you just follow Pelosi, if you just follow some of the best, you do even better than this. So it is, the idea of these random 430 people, most of which have no financial background, that their stock trades return triple what the market does year over year. It's
every time you come here, Ross, you bring me something that just makes my jaw drop. And I'm looking at this chart, and it's just like, look at Congress and look at the S&P 500.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not one or two people, right?
There's a major gap here, right? And people within Congress know this. They know when the stock's going to drop, right? They know this. It's insider trading. So they're profiting from it. Pump and dump, right? You invest in a company, and the company gains stock, and you buy up the stocks, and you sell them, right? So this is how they make profit. And this guy is going to explain a bit about that.
I love this hog clip because we've been saying this for years. Everyone knows Pelosi uses inside information. You don't get a $200 million net worth on a $200,000 salary without cheating. And so there's the top brass at the DNC admitting it.
So explain what I'm seeing here, because you can see, you've got, looks like it goes back to maybe 2020, where the graph wasn't, the apex is connecting, and then it just boom, it just blows up. What's going on there?
Well, it's just consistent outperformance. If you looked at this at log scale, it'd be a little more steady. But this is just a chart to show over the last 5 years. And so if you put $1,000 in the market, you'd have done very well. Your 1,000 would be worth 2,400. You give $1,000 to members of Congress, you got $5,000. So that's really the difference. And they just consistently pick stocks before they make big moves because of the information they have access to. They know when a company's going to get a big government contract. They know when a piece of legislation is going to help or hurt certain industries is going to pass or not pass. And they can use that information to buy or sell the right stocks at the right time and make, frankly, tens of millions of dollars, Gary.
Well, he said, literally, Hogg said, members of Congress make trades quote, way too well-timed to not have insider knowledge.
Yeah.
Can you give us some of the most egregious examples that you've tracked?
Well, I could give you a dozen just from Pelosi. But again, it's not just her. So, you take someone like Earl Blumenauer from the House of Representatives. He was buying defense company stocks the very day Russia invaded Ukraine. So he finds out about this knowledge and then goes and profits from it. You had someone like Catherine Clark, a Democratic member of the House. She was buying Hollow Logic stock back in 2020 when that stock chart started. Now, you and I have never heard of Hollow Logic.
Pump and dump, as I said before, right?
It's a little tiny off the radar stock. She just so happened to buy it 1 week before that company gets a $120 million COVID contract from the federal government. And this woman is literally on the committee that awarded that funding, Gary. So you're in a meeting, okay, we're gonna allocate $120 million to this. We're gonna give it to this company. Okay, before we tell anybody, let me go buy the stock. And it skyrockets. You got Pat Fallon. This guy's buying Microsoft right before the Pentagon gives them a $10 billion cloud computing contract. Stock goes way up. The Pentagon ended up canceling the contract, but he sells before that becomes public. So it's this kind of stuff. I mean, Pelosi, she went all in on Tesla leverage with call options right before Biden mandated with his pen that the whole government fleet was going to go electric. Well, at the time, that's the biggest electric vehicle manufacturer.
Well, that's how you profit, right? Stocks are going up because there's a mandate. Everything needs to be electric, and you have electric cars selling, right? And then you have the dump, right? The Pelosi. I don't know, she's ideologically against Elon Musk, I guess, right? Like every Democrat is. So, then she sells off the stock and profits from it.
Shoots up on the news. She made millions off this. So it's like they're not even trying to hide it. And I know Pelosi feels she's invincible, and frankly, she is. She's been doing this for 20 years. Nobody's doing anything about it. But the only silver lining to this, and what I like to share with people, is why we're doing that training event, you can actually see this stuff. I understand it pisses you off. I understand it's unethical. They shouldn't be enriching themselves. But at the very minimum, we can see when they're buying these stocks.
Well, now the American public has information and can confront these people, right, with that certain information. You're enriching yourself, Miss Pelosi. Can you talk about this? Hold the fire to their feet, and go the same for Republicans, right? All these people in politics, they enrich themselves. It's not about peace. We want peace. That's what we want. We want a small government and not government intrusion within the population. We don't want to be controlled. We don't want a big brother camera looking over our shoulder. And over here in the Netherlands, there's this Russian scare, right? So, yeah, basically the Dutch government is saying Russia will attack Europe. Now, in the 3 years that Russia is intervening in Ukraine, I have not seen missiles in Hungary or name another country within the EU, right? What does Ukraine want? What do you want, Volodymyr Zelensky? Tell me. You want to be part of NATO? I don't think that Moscow wants that. Even though, Moscow doesn't really have a say, right? But they don't want that. They don't want NATO at their border. Because there are many countries like Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, they're all part of NATO. Even Finland is part of NATO. Right? These are neighboring countries. Now, why does Ukraine need to be part of NATO? There are geopolitical aspects here, and not for nothing that they blew up the bridge at the Black Sea. They want access to Crimea, and that is in Russian hands. Russia says, nope, we're not going to give up Crimea. Nope, we're not going to do that. And the Russians are advancing, right? I mean, if you think that Iran had lots of missiles towards Israel, you should have seen what Moscow did to Ukraine. Right? After the Pearl Harbor of Russia, basically, they hit within the country, deep within the country. We also show that on RHTVLive. And the Russian retaliation, it's amazing. It really was amazing. And still the war is going on because people profit from it. They don't care how many Ukrainians die. They don't care how many Russians die. They don't care. Conflict is not within my backyard. I'm enriching myself. Yeah. I can drive my big fat car. Whilst people are dying. It's a very, very sad thing to see that the world is devolving into hell. Right? War everywhere. We have a war in Ukraine. We have a war with Israel and Iran. And many countries are aligning themselves, as we saw before. Even Pakistan is willing to support Iran against Israel. And Pakistan and India, as I've said before, had a recent fight about the Kashmir region. Here we have the Kashmir region, Jammu and Kashmir. Basically, that's an autonomous state within two countries, and each country has also an autonomous government, So it's a very weird way of living, basically. And they were fighting about that region. So, lots and lots is happening in the world. I bet Iran will close the Straits of Hormuz, right? I think they're going to do that. And yeah, we'll see how other Gulf states will like that, right? We have Bahrain, Qatar, United Emirates, they all, and Dubai, they all will face the consequences when the Straits of Hormuz are closed down, right? That's also something for Europe, because we had deals with Qatar about gas and energy and stuff. So, yeah. And the pipeline, which was on table, right, through Syria, yeah, that's still, it was on the table, but now it's like sideways on the table, right? Somewhere in the corner, because the prevailing thing is Iran and Israel. So, very complex situation. And yeah, there are other wars going on, such as Sudan. We have the army against the RSF, right? Sudanese forces, paramilitary forces in Sudan against the army. And there's so much going on. Let's look at Haiti. How's our friend Barbecue doing? Right, Mr. Barbecue. How is Mr. Barbecue doing? Is he still alive? Right? I don't know. So this is Mr. Barbecue. He will consider a ceasefire 1 year ago. We don't know if this guy is still alive. Haiti's powerful gangs. Let's take a look at this here. This is 1 month ago.
Jimmy Cherezier, better known as Barbecue, frontman of the gang alliance Vive Ensemble, designated a terror group by the Trump administration. Barbecue has an unlikely hero.
I think we have something in common.
You and Trump?
Yeah. And during his campaign, he said, we need to drain the swamp.
We need to drain the swamp.
That's the same thing I want to do in Haiti.
The number of civilians displaced by gang warfare has sailed past 1 million, homeless in what was already the Western Hemisphere's poorest nation.
Certain day I wake up and I'm strong. In my mind it is like I can do it, I can make it, but some other times I wake up in tears.
Kenya leads a United Nations-backed mission to help restore law and order. The latest arrivals at Port-au-Prince's International Airport. But their number is less than half the original target. The airport is closed to commercial flights due to overwhelming danger.
Barbecue is portraying himself as some kind of modern-day savior of the people.
No, he killed people and burn houses, hospitals, and churches.
The gangs, which control 85% of the capital, unrelenting as they press for its total capitulation.
Well, I'm joined now by...
So, that's happening in Haiti. This is 1 month ago. And, yeah, he's still alive. Very sad thing to see, because the people in Haiti aren't free. They aren't prosperous. We need prosperity to come back, and these people need to be free from outside intrusion, and free from a corrupt government, Basically the government fell in 2021. We had a president that got shot and killed, and that was a phone call. And ever since, the gangs are in power in Haiti, right? We are listening, Haiti. We want you to have peace and prosperity. That is what we want. And also other parts of the world, such as Myanmar, we want peace and prosperity for the people in Myanmar. We don't want a junta controlling them, right? An army controlling them. So, peace and prosperity for the people in Myanmar. Peace and prosperity for the people in Taiwan, right? Xi Jinping, leave Taiwan alone. Let them prosper, even though, you don't want that for some odd reason. I don't see Taiwan attacking China, but China has all these drills surrounding Taiwan and stuff like that. It's a very, very sad thing to see. Leave these people alone, right? And when we look at Korea, we want a united Korea. No, we don't want North Korea or in South Korea. This is a pressure point, right? North Korea is a pressure point used as a vessel by the Chinese state to put pressure on Western powers such as South Korea, Japan, and even Taiwan. So, yeah, that's that, right? There's so much more to say. So much more to say, because there's a lot happening. It's a beautiful planet, beautiful people, but not all people get along with each other, such as Iran and Israel, right? Leave each other alone, Don't interfere within internal politics. Now, I do understand the position of Iran, right? Because they look at the Palestinians. And what Israel is doing to the Palestinians in the West Bank and in Gaza is inhumane. It needs to stop. It needs to stop, Benjamin Netanyahu, with your stupid bomb, right? It needs to stop. And you may say, I'm making this up. Nope, I'm not. We're going to show some fires in the West Bank. Yeah. If we can find it. There is a short, let's see here. Israeli settlers set fire to home in Bardla village, West Bank. So here we go. So they set a house on fire, and the people living in the house are either gone or, in the house, and evacuate. And then they put the fire out, and they confiscate the home. And if the fire is big enough, they're going to make a new home on the place where, it's very, very sad. It's a sad thing to see. And this inspires hate from other countries, such as Iran. They're looking at what's happening in the West Bank. They're looking at what's happening in other places, such as Lebanon, right? We saw Israel so-called defend itself whilst attacking Lebanon, deep within Lebanon. We also saw many, many missiles in Syria, because Iran was involved in Syria, right? We had Bashar al-Assad inviting Russia and Iran to defend Syria from the proxies that were there to overthrow him, which we funded. We as the Netherlands funded. So, very, very sad thing to see. This is, let's see, 2025. This is pretty recent.
حرقوا دار الخليلي يا شباب، حرقوا دار الخليلي.
So, yep, we know what's happening in the world. We want peace. That's what we want. We want peace. Right? Let's take a look at the inside story. Al Jazeera. This is 1 hour ago.
Will Russia, Turkey and China provide support to Iran in its conflict with Israel? The three countries have condemned Israel's actions, but is that enough? And what do they all stand to lose if the conflict spirals out of control? This is Inside Story.
On a side note here, if we look at the Middle East, we see that Assad is gone, and basically a proxy has taken power, and now Syria is divided within two countries. We have Israel operating from the Golan Heights within Syria, right? And Lebanon is trying to, retaliate because Syria has no army anymore. So, and we have Turkey within the northeast of Syria fighting off the Kurds, right? So that's happening within Syria. The only base of power is Damascus, and basically it's still a broken country. And now it's being used by Israel for attacking Iran. And they're also using bases in Iraq to attack Iran. So basically, Israel has the advantage, even though Lebanon is an ally of Iran. Syria is out of the game. Jordan is an ally of Israel, right? Iraq is out of the game, so they're not involved yet. And yeah, Turkey is in the northeast of Syria fighting off the Kurds. So this is all happening, right? I'm not making this up. And it's sad to see. This beautiful planet, we all want peace, right? We want peace. We don't want to pick a fight. We don't want to choose sides, right? Because, whose side are you on when it comes to Pakistan and India? Now tell me, whose side are you on? Or Myanmar? Right? Whose side are you on? Are you on the army side? Even though the army is killing a lot of people? And all these countries, they look the other way. They're like, okay, do your thing, Myanmar. kill off the Rohingya people and stuff like that, you know. They don't care, right? We want peace. We want world peace. That is the thing we want to achieve at RHTVLive, giving you insight on what's happening in and around our beautiful planet. So I think I've said enough for now, and we'll see each other another time. I thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing, and bye-bye.